Hey, Alexis.
Hey, Allie.
Did you know that tomatoes were once called wolf peaches and thought to be poisonous in Europe for hundreds of years?
Wolf peaches.
Yeah, like, oh,
Like full moon, like
Yeah,
wolfing out. Oh my God. I wonder, I guess like it's kind of like maybe I wonder if it was like an urban legend or something. Like I
probably.
wonder if they thought it was well, they thought it was poisonous. So I wonder if
Yeah.
it was like bad luck if you happen to have a peach tree or something sprout in your yard. I wonder if they're like, you're gonna die. Like,
Yeah, I have no idea. All I know is now they're like staples, but they don't
yeah.
need wolves, so
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
Well, hey everyone, we're Green Thread. I'm Allie,
Hi, I'm Alexis.
and we're here to pull on the thread to connect you to the climate around you. This episode is more for kind of a 101 or like an intro episode to maybe a further season in the case that y'all enjoy the content of this one. But we know as environmentalists that food waste is a big issue, especially in the US. One that doesn't get the light I feel like it deserves, or even just the interest that it deserves. And on finding solutions for that, especially ones that are user friendly or ones that are honestly better for you or more healthy, is gardening. And I personally know a lot of people that are interested in gardening or have one or have started one or hope to start one soon. But we thought maybe it'd be a nice refresher from some more stressful topics to just talk about, some gardening 101. Which where do you even start? That's a big question that a lot of people will like begin their little Google search. Like, how do I
Mm-hmm.
begin this? Start small. I remember when I was really young and we actually had a yard, and my grandmother loved planting like basil and parsley and mint. Oh my God, mint is so resilient and it will
Mm-hmm.
grow and grow and grow. She also loved tomatoes, but she didn't like, speaking of wolf peaches, but
Mm-hmm.
she didn't really plant them as often. And I've grown jalapenos because they're, not easily eaten by wildlife. But just starting small, starting with things that um, you can use for a lot of different recipes or just in general in your everyday diet, but ones that are you can't kill very easily and will just kind
Yeah.
of thrive.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's a great way to start, like almost how we were talking about with houseplants in a previous episode, starting with
Mm-hmm.
something maybe succulent, something that is very resilient and is very forgiving if you
Yes.
are still trying to adjust to a plant's schedule or, how often should I water this? How much water should I give it? How much sunlight should it be getting? And I actually last spring, uh, I did a project here at school at Georgia Highlands. Shout out to y'all. And I planted a garden in my backyard. And the whole goal was really to off-put the erosion that's happening of the topsoil of my backyard because of a business, their, retention pond behind them. It
Mm-hmm.
just flows all into my yard, which is a whole other can
Boo.
of worms. Boo! Get that fixed. So, I just took it in my own hands. I was like, okay, I'm going to try and fix this myself. So I tried to do some research about plants in Georgia. What should I be planting? Because especially in Georgia, it's really hard because of a lot of the clay and
Yeah.
it's not really soil. It's clay in so many areas. And some plants don't really like that. And I found out that there's different hardiness zones and like I had mentioned in a previous episode about biodiversity in Georgia, there's so many different regions and different types of environments and soils and conditions in Georgia alone that I could plant something here, but in South Georgia, it might not be the best option. Um, a lot of my results were coming up with finding something that was like a swamp variant of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that way it could take a lot of water, especially for my specific project of trying to combat flowing water through my yard. And I just found a lot of interesting things. And I tried to get plants from maybe more local farms or places that had raised these plants themselves. I got some from Home Depot too, but a lot of those plants work fine as well, as long as you do your research and you can find out what's native and what's good for your area, then that's just a great way to start by just a quick Google search.
Right. And I mean, there's so many benefits from gardening. And I know, like, physical, mentally,
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm sure when you were doing your project, you were kind of like, wow, I have some more knowledge and also I feel better.
Yeah, definitely. And it wasn't even just like, for myself, but I was doing the project for school, and it's just I'm very proud to have that under my belt, and presenting that work at the academic showcase for Georgia Highlands was really fun too, and just spending, the later half of my semester in the spring just planting this garden and then watching it grow and reporting on it and seeing how it was doing and what's affecting it and what's the weather like was really, really cool. And it did help me mentally. It made me spend some more time outside too. Because
Yeah.
even as an environmentalist and as someone who loves nature, loves hiking, loves being outside, I do not spend enough time outside.
Do
So
we
that,
all?
right. Like, I don't know. I'm so busy all the time with work and school, and I just never take the time to go sit on my back porch for 5 minutes, which is, a really
Mm-hmm.
simple thing to do. But getting my hands dirty, literally, and bonding with nature in that way was really important to me, and not just something for me to be proud of school wise, but it helped me a lot just personally.
Exactly. And then it's like an exercise too.
Hmm.
Like you're literally having aerobic exercising and
Yeah.
like digging and
Yeah.
also just like getting out there and having something consistent. Like we always talk about consistency in the gym, but there's
Mhm.
also consistency in other things like
For
this.
sure. And like with finding plants that are resilient, and like I had said earlier, being on a plant's schedule, it's important to be consistent with the amount of water you're giving them, the amount of sunlight, because a lot of plants have very specific conditions. And if you're talking about gardening outdoors, you have to find, a certain position for that to go in. Like, okay,
Right.
the sun is setting on this side, or the hottest part of the day, it's, the sun is here on my house. So figuring out, I planted my whole garden on the side of my house, but I'm sure a lot of those plants, if I put them directly in the back, they wouldn't get enough sunlight, or in the front, they get way too much. So it's finding that balance too for them.
That's a whole nother project for you.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's the same, like, say you don't have a yard. Say we're just talking to you and you're like, okay, yap, yap, yap. I can't do this. I don't have any yard. That's okay because you can also do indoor gardening, and you might be like, well, how? Um, Containers, reuse like bottles,
Yeah,
propagate. I
yeah.
mean, literally just take. Well, okay, I'm not gonna incentivize going to a store and taking off a leaf from a plant because that would not be for legal purposes. No,
Yeah. We
but
do not recommend that. We didn't say that.
no, no, no. But like just reusing containers for plants that you want to grow. Tomato plants can grow really well like that. But also just like finding some way to manipulate your environmental conditions in your house that can maybe replicate exterior conditions, like you're saying, like making sure you have it where the sun is hitting it at certain points of the day,
Hmm.
not at others, or like humidity levels are a big thing. Always like covering with those little like plastic covers, or like even just I don't remember they're not silicone, but there's a specific thing I have to kind of like go more into depth in my research about it, but you can like cover the bottled caps with it and it'll create humidity within the environment that you're trying to grow the plant.
Mm.
But also just like setting up like a windowsill like we're talking about, or even like a balcony,
Yeah.
like anything. You can grow your own food and it's healthier that way. It's less food waste and you don't have to, it's not as costly. It's so
Oh,
so
yeah.
cheap to grow your own food.
Oh, yeah. And growing your own food, you're more mindful of what you are eating and how
Right.
much you're eating. And I feel like that reduces food waste, because you're kind of, okay, I planted this whole garden and I want to make the most of it. I don't want to waste my money. I don't want to have my time wasted. I spent all the time and money and energy into this, and I want to see the literal fruits of my labor. So taking your own produce and products and eating those, you're eating out less, maybe like contributing
Yeah.
less to more commercialized food waste versus your own household, and you're more encouraged to use everything that you're given. Or even if you don't eat it yourself in your house, give it to your neighbors. Go be a friendly neighbor, give it to a family member, give it to
Right.
someone. I don't know if it's safe for your pets, give it to your pets.
Yeah, and going off of that, like there's so many ways that you can increase the shelf life because I mean, just growing your own food already increases its shelf life, but also like if you want to do like canned goods, pickling, I love pickles.
Yes,
Um
me too.
and like freezing too. Like there's so many different ways you can keep your produce well kept for a longer period of time.
Mhm.
I have a friend that literally pickles like everything, and she has like jars and jars and jars of pickles. And I think I had one of her jars for probably a year, and it wasn't as good. I mean, that's pretty obvious, but at the same time, like, she used cucumbers that she grew in her backyard, and to think of being able to have it for a long time afterwards, it's kind of rewarding. I
Mhm.
mean, it is rewarding, but it's kind of like, wow, I did that.
Yeah.
And also going off of that, like, a lot of the times when we're in the store and we're picking through the produce, we're looking for the best ones.
Mhm.
But when you're growing your own food and you know where it's coming from, you're more likely to keep even ones that maybe look ugly.
Yeah.
And so that's reducing food waste too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point to make because people don't know where it's coming from necessarily. If you're just looking at a batch of bananas or apples or whatever it may be, and if it's all bruised or if it's like a little bit brown, or even like I'm very picky with my lettuce, I'll admit it.
Yes.
I'm so picky about it. If it's got even some brown on a couple pieces, I'm like, I don't really like that, you know?
Yeah.
So I would feel much better if maybe I started planting my own lettuce like harvesting my own lettuce at home.
Exactly. I'm the same way with my lettuce too. But I mean, it's kind of valid though, because a lot of the times there's like E. coli breakouts
Yes.
from the lettuce, but also just like a lot of different other produce that you get from the store. And
Mhm.
because you really don't know in its travel time, like what has happened, or maybe some bacteria that got into it. There's so
Yeah.
many different factors that we don't think about, and maybe you don't want to think about, because I don't really think
Yeah.
it's fun to remember the things that could go wrong. But it's stuff like that that can make it like, uh, I guess more, um, what am I trying to say? Like, convincing thing to grow your own
Mhm.
food. Also just knowing how to like handle and store your food, and also reuse your food, because like, if say you have a yard and you want to make your own garden, but you like had somebody test your soil, or maybe you tested your soil, you're trying to research about it, and you realize you're lacking in some nutrients that you might need for some plants you want to have in your garden. um, you can use like food scraps maybe that you have in your house already from a previous grocery run, to like soak like banana peels, and
Mhm.
it can help with like potassium and different nutrients you can put right back into your soil from things that, like resources you already have. But then once you grow your own food, you can put those right back into your garden. And so it's just like, that food cycle just keeps on
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, like we've talked about composting in a couple of my
Yes.
classes. So taking that and putting it right back to where it came from, or using other products, other food products to help those plants grow is a really cool thing. It's like a full cycle, like you were saying. And going back to we don't exactly know what's happened with our produce on the way to the grocery store.
Yeah.
That kind of throwback to data accessibility episode. Uh, just being able to access where does XYZ grocery store get their produce from, and then trying to
Hmm.
find those farms, and then trying to find those practices. That's really a taxing experience on yourself. Like, trying to find that information can be really difficult. And even once you find it, it might not be the best answer or the answer that you're looking for. And, people don't really take the time to research where their food is coming from. So, honestly, it would be more peace of mind for people to start growing their own food. And I had also thought about the recent outbreak of, what was it with boar's head?
Oh yes. I
What
don't.
was
I'm not gonna remember
I
the.
can't remember, but they had an outbreak,
Hmm.
and I feel like a lot of the times, especially here in the US, our food is very processed, and our food is very much almost a money grab a lot of the times, and just
Yeah.
trying to do things like that.
Was it salmonella? I don't think.
Was it Listeria?
It could have.
No,
I don't
I
know.
don't know. I probably that probably sounds really stupid if that's not it. But anyway, yeah, just thinking about where our food comes from and doing your research about it is very important, and just buying food that you trust. And if you don't trust it, just start your own. You can
Yep.
trust yourself. If you can't trust somebody else, you can trust yourself at the end of the day. And another whole can of worms about food waste is fast food.
Yes.
I used to work in fast food, and at the end of the shift, we still had stuff sitting on the heaters, and we got a huge, like, catering bag put everything in there, it goes to the dumpster.
Yep.
And that happens every single day, every shift. Like, that is insane. So multiply that by however many fast food restaurants are in your city, in your state, in your country, in the world. And every single day, that's how much is being thrown away. And that's food that is edible. You can eat it. It's still good. And that's really devastating that it's being thrown out like it's nothing, you know?
Right. I had a friend that worked at a non-named place.
Yeah.
But they're a big brand, and they like every night they have to throw out the things in their little like refrigerator section you can go search for. And she would come home with like, I don't know, pounds of like X, Y, and Z. For me, thankfully, I was very thankful because I was gonna eat it or have somebody else to give it to. But just thinking about that in the bigger like scheme, as you're saying, is like every night, all the time, like, and there's people out here that are hungry. If you want to get down into that topic, but I mean, it just like why don't we put it towards like donations or something that we, somebody else needs it more.
Yeah, like it would be wonderful if every night, I don't know if this person would be, just somebody that works at the restaurant or the grocery store, whatever it may be, where it's coming from, and they could go and drop the stuff off to the nearest homeless shelter, or just if somebody is, in the street or something, just giving it to anyone who might need it, because it's important not only just for humanity and just being empathetic towards other human beings and trying to be the best that we can. It's important for the environment as well, and to keep us going and to keep the environment going, to make sure that this does not just all end up back into the earth in not that great of a way.
Agreed. Well, hopefully we just inspired some new gardeners out there.
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool to see some other people like, hop on the gardening train. But if you saw that we failed to talk about specific points that maybe you have learned while gardening, we would love to hear them. We always have those forums open in the link tree, and even just in the comments, like, just let us know what more tips we can give out, or if you even want to speak with us about it. I think it'd be really important to kind of bring a new perspective on how we can reduce our food waste, and hopefully we'll see you in the next run.
Yeah, we'll see you next time, hopefully, with your new garden.
Yeah, grow your food. Keep pulling that green thread.
Pull the green thread. Bye, guys.